Good morning. This is Thursday, July the 26th. Welcome to Story Time. Thank you very much. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States of America, because I'm the only one that makes the presumption for the status quo. Speaking to all you butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. So, art-wise, the left influences people. They can do so directly, usually with an individual. The people you'll meet, your friends, relatives, people you meet in line at the grocery store, etc., and also through art. And they use television, and they like the visual mediums. They're not so good with radio, but they do very well with the visual mediums, television, and movies. And they also don't do so well in print, okay, for the most part. But a couple of examples of that was I've been watching Band of Brothers, which was they put out a few years ago, and I just recently got around to watching it. And what struck me about Band of Brothers is that what it was an anti-war movie. This is not the same kind of movie that you would see John Wayne in, for instance. Watch a John Wayne war movie, and then watch Band of Brothers, and you're going to see the difference. That with John Wayne, his movies were patriotic. The war movies were painted in a very patriotic way. I remember also that another way you can tell is that with John Wayne, he was in some kind of Western, and his character got shot. And so he was in bed, and the doctor was telling him he had a fairly serious wound, and that if the bullet might move, they can't remove it because it might damage organs or whatever. So, and that he's okay, he can move and he can whatnot, but you never know if he gets bumped the wrong way or whatever. That's what the doctor is telling him. What I noticed when he's lying in the bed is that there's no blood, there's no bandages, there's no nothing. And I thought about that for a second. I thought, wow, it really stands out, because in today's movies they make sure that you see the blood and bandages and guts and anything and everything else. And I was thinking, why didn't they do that in John Wayne's day? Why didn't they put, have him with bandages and whatnot? And I realized because it's not the point. It's not the point of the movie. They're not trying to turn you off of something. They're trying to turn you on to something. In this particular case, lifestyles, way of life, the idea of being a rugged individualist, as a cowboy, that he's the kind of guy that's not going to spend a lot of time whining or feeling sorry for himself, those kinds of things. Whereas when you see a lot of movies today with a lot of, the emphasis seems to be police shows, cowboy shows, war shows in particular. The emphasis is on wounds, psychological wounds, it's on physical wounds, and done that way to turn you off. It's to turn people off of being a cowboy, turn you off of being a warrior or going to war, or turn off the patriotic aspects. And that's what you find in the movie or the series Band of Brothers, is that it's long on gore, it's long on blood and guts, it's long on dead people, long on psychological damage and people, not being able to, that are getting shell shock and other things, and long on a lot of details, very, very, very short on patriotism. They draw moral equivalencies between the German army and the American army, and so, like I said, it's obvious that this is an anti-war piece. So, and they do it in a subtle way. Again, they do it primarily with gore and blood and guts and whatnot, and leaving the patriotism out of it. So it's done in a more subtle way, because they want you to accept the message. One of the ways that you can be, and probably the only way to get psychologically manipulated, is if you agree to it, and one of the best ways to do that is to smuggle it in, okay, if you don't know it's happening. You go to the movie and you think, oh, I'm going to watch a war movie. No, you're going to watch an anti-war movie, but you don't realize that. And so when you come out of the theater, all of a sudden you have maybe some new ideas and new attitudes that you didn't have before you entered the theater. So, as far as television is concerned, well, it's not even television. It's another. Actually, Band of Brothers, I think, was a TV show. So that was the TV show. The movie, one that was interesting, is I saw a trailer for a new movie that's coming up called Alpha. And immediately after I saw this trailer, I immediately thought, written by the left, written, produced, and that this is a propaganda piece for the left. And that this was their vision of paradise. Left likes to talk about, socialist paradise. It's inevitable. We're going to have a revolution, and it's going to usher in socialist paradise. But if you ask them, what does that look like? What does socialist paradise mean? Very rarely do you get anybody that can give you an answer. Well, this is what I think is their answer to the question, what is socialist paradise? And it's about a boy and his dog, so to speak. But it's actually a boy and his wolf. And the boy is living in primitive conditions. I don't know how he got that way, but he finds himself in a cave with a wolf. It's almost like that movie about the guy that's stranded on a boat with a tiger in it. Okay, it's kind of that same sense of things. Then he and the wolf become buddies, and they go out on adventures together. And it just seemed to me that's exactly what the left is looking for. They want to reduce everybody down to subsistence level. Okay, that you're going to be a hunter-gatherer, you're going to live hand to mouth, you're going to live, you're communing with nature in every and any way, any and every way possible. So, and at first you're thinking, going to go into this thinking, oh, it's a nature movie, or it's, like I said, a story, sort of a one-off on the old boy and his dog story. But it's not. It's really a socio-political propaganda from the left. But it's done in a subtle way. Instead of having people marching around in jackboots and shouting Marxist slogans, you're selling it on the subconscious level. So when I come back, it's going to be I'm going to do a little bit of from Rush Limbaugh's show from yesterday. Play a clip or a couple of clips and make a critique. Thank you very much, and welcome back. And so I'm going to play a couple of clips from yesterday's Rush Limbaugh show. This is taken off of his app from rushlimbaugh.com.
I'm getting sick and tired of having to give credence to every one of these bogus attacks and these attempts that they are making to get rid of Trump and overturn the election results and so forth. And I'm not going to help them by making this a bigger deal than it is. As I say, if you have questions about it or you want to make a cut, you feel free. Have at it. California Power Grid urges consumers to conserve energy in heat wave. They want you to turn off everything in your house. They want you to turn off your air conditioning. They want you to turn off your lights. Wait a minute. What about all the renewable energy? What about all the solar? And what about all of the wind? Why isn't that covering for this? Now, what do we do with people with electric cars? Oh, my God. What about people who only have Teslas and they're being told, what are they going to do?
Okay, so there's a couple of clips that I was interested in there, and I'm going to start with the first clip. Let's see here. And in response, I want to read something from Ayn Rand. It's called Objectivism from A to Z. It's her book, and it's like a dictionary or glossary of terms that Ayn Rand thought was important vis-a-vis objectivism. So here, from Arbitrary Claim. If a man asserts such an idea, whether he does so by error or ignorance or corruption, his idea is thereby epistemologically invalidated. It has no relation to reality or to human cognition. Remember that man's consciousness is not automatic and not automatically correct. So if a man is to be able to claim any proposition as true or even as possible, he must follow definite epistemological rules, rules designed to guide his mental processes and keep his conclusions in correspondence to reality. In sum, if a man is to achieve knowledge, he must adhere to objective validating methods, i.e., he must shun the arbitrary. Since an arbitrary statement has no connection to man's means of knowledge or his grasp of reality, cognitively speaking, such a statement must be treated as though nothing had been said. Let me elaborate this point. An arbitrary claim has no cognitive no cognitive stature whatever. According to objectivism, such a claim is not to be regarded as true or as false. If it is arbitrary, it is entitled to no epistemological assessment at all. It is simply to be dismissed as though it hadn't come up. The truth is established by reference to a body of evidence and within a context. The false is pronounced false because it contradicts the evidence. The arbitrary, however, has no relation to evidence, facts, or context. It is the human equivalent of noises produced by a parrot, sounds without any tie to reality, without content or significance. In a sense, therefore, the arbitrary is even worse than the false. The false at least has a relation, albeit a negative one, to reality. It has reached the field of human cognition, although it represents an error. But in that sense, it is closer to reality than the brazenly arbitrary. I want to note here parenthetically that the words expressing an arbitrary claim may perhaps be judged as true or false in some other cognitive context if and when they are no longer put forth as arbitrary. But this is irrelevant to the present issue because it is irrelevant, to the present issue because it changes the epistemological situation. For instance, if a savage utters 2 plus 2 equals 4 as a memorized lesson which he doesn't understand or see any reason for, then in that context it is arbitrary, and the savage did not utter truth or falsehood. And it goes on, but I think I've made the point there. The whole thing with Rush Limbaugh, basically I can say I'm sick and tired of Rush Limbaugh being sick and tired because he doesn't have to be sick and tired. Okay, if he would simply recognize arbitrary claims that are made without any type of evidence. For instance, if somebody says Rush Limbaugh is a racist and just leaves it at that, that is an arbitrary claim. The only thing you need do is say that's an arbitrary claim and I'm going to ignore it and move on. And if somebody says Rush Limbaugh is a racist, and I know so because I have pictures of him at a KKK rally, now we're going somewhere. Now you can get into the evidence, dig into it, and find out what exactly they mean by pictures of you at a KKK rally, and then try to, dispute it. But so Rush Limbaugh makes this mistake over and over and over again. He thinks that he has to respond to every single little comment that anybody on the left makes. He makes their job easy and easier by responding to every ridiculous, arbitrary claim that they make. Okay, if he doesn't want to be sick and tired, my advice is quit responding to arbitrary claims, and you're going to find that your work is a lot easier and you're a lot more productive and you're a lot more effective because then you're going to be sticking to and addressing only those issues that are potent, that in which there is some sort of evidence that is presented, and then you can hopefully show that it is false and show it up that way. So, and now as far as the second part is concerned, the second clip, I liked that because it showed a little bit of insight. Every once in a while, Rush Limbaugh shows some insight, and this is one of those times where, it was not something I thought of, about the, what are the people with Teslas running around here in the United States? These politicians are saying, trying to get everything electrified. There is a rumor that here in Southern California, the gas company is going to be run out of business by the government. The state government doesn't want the gas company around anymore. They want everything to be electric, and basically they want everything to be solar. Okay, so you don't have electric plants, you don't have to worry about coal and all that good stuff. But it's a good point that he makes. Here we are. We're all trying to be electric energy and solar and wind and all that. Why isn't any of that making a difference? Why is it that we now have to cut back on the amount of electricity that we're using, cut back on our air conditioning, etc.? Why isn't these new technologies taking effect or taking hold? And also, again, if we're going to go electric and the solar and other ideas for generating electricity aren't going to be able to cut the mustard, then why do I want to go electric? Why do I want to have an electric stove? Why do I want to have a Tesla? Why do I want to have an electric car of any sort if I'm not going to be able to charge it up? Because the government's going to be telling me, oh, I'm sorry, we're low on electricity today, so you can't charge your car, or you can't use your stove or your oven, or whatever else I got that's electric. Because now everything is completely electric. No gas, no other types of. Um, anyways, and all of this has to do with paradise. You'll notice that with politicians these days, on the national side, or even at the state level, that so many of them, and it's really prevalent in California, are absolutely unrealistic. It's one of the ways you can spot a lefty. They're unrealistic completely. For instance, there's something here in Southern California called net zero. And the idea of net zero is to have no automobile accidents, no pedestrian deaths by getting hit by a car, zero. It used to be that politicians, the vast majority, were realistic. What they would do is they say, we have a problem here. We know we have a problem because, let's say, we lead the nation in pedestrian deaths. Okay, and it shouldn't be happening. There's no reason for us to be leading the country in pedestrian deaths. So what we want to do is we're going to start by trying to cut the number of pedestrian deaths by a certain percentage. Not anymore. No more do the politicians want to cut things by percentage and be realistic and get the numbers down to a realistic level, say under a national average. Instead, they want perfection. They want zero deaths. It's not ever going to happen. People that want to commit suicide, and they may decide that they're going to commit suicide by going out and go jump on the freeway and get hit by a car. There goes your net zero situation. There goes your paradise. It's done and finished with. So, and it seems that that's what a lot of this with the electric is the same way. Everything has to be electric, not just having some electric as supplementary. Being realistic about it and saying, yes, we still need coal, we still need gas, we still need other types of energy sources, but we'd like to supplement those energy sources with wind and solar and other types of electric. No, 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 no. Now we have to have perfection. We have to have paradise. And their vision of paradise is a state that is completely run by solar energy. So, but anyways, yeah, good for Rush Limbaugh on that one for, that little penetrating insight there. And I criticize Rush Limbaugh, I criticize Sean Hannity, and in large part because they could do better. It's not because I don't like them. I do like them. They're patriots. They mean well. But in the battle that we're engaged in, meaning well is not good enough. They can do better. They should do better. They must do better. Okay, and that brings us to the conclusion of another episode of Story Time. And I thank you all for joining me. And until next time, have a great day.